this waterfall called Grantham Falls. And so my sister and I, we get locked in with the evacuation. So we hike up to Grantham Falls, and of course there's nobody there. So why wouldn't we do what every young group of girls would do? We get butt naked and we get into the base of Grantham Falls. And it's like in the movies where it's like, oh, feel the wind in my face. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, that's because, you can hear the waterfall boop, 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 boop.
Yeah,
and I'm going, that's a lot of extra wind and a lot of extra, what the hell? I turn around and there's a helicopter hovering there. It was the firefighters with the helicopters with the water. And they're sitting there. We got these two naked nymphs. We're trying to just cover absolutely everything. And they're just sitting there. Can you imagine collecting water?
God,
it looked like there were 4 of them. So if you're listening and you were one of those firefighters, first, don't tell anyone what you saw. But then please let me know that you were one of those guys. Because we talk about it all the time. And they just sat there, hovering, staring, watching us fall over ourselves.
Oh, my God.
It was a good summer. It was a good summer.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a great summer for the firefighters.
Exactly.
This is the Outside Podcast with PaddyO. My mom jokes that my grandpa never met a stranger because he instantly made friends. My favorite example of this is the time my mom was at an anti-war protest in downtown Chicago. This was the end of the 60s, after all. And she brought a few fuzzy-faced hippies home for some refreshments and to antagonize her straight-laced parents. Story goes that old grandpa walks out onto the porch and starts straight in with the, "Hi, I'm Chuck. What's your name? Where are you from?" Sure enough, before the fuzzy-faced hippies can even begin to razz my grandpa, he goes, "Wait 1 second. Are you Bill Johnson's nephew from Oklahoma?" And my grandpa ends up better friends with these guys than my mom did. My grandpa just had a way with folks. Big guy, big laugh, big smile, always welcoming and disarming. I like to think that rubbed off on me, and it's part of how I became a professional chit-chatter. I treat strangers like friends. And this was probably a little naive of me, but I kind of thought I was pretty good at it. I mean, to be honest, I thought I was really good at it. And then I sat down with the fly fishing phenom and host of the Anchored podcast, April Vokey. To understand April's gift of gab, you have to first understand how she fell in love with fishing. Growing up in the suburbs of Vancouver, she started as a toddler and was hooked immediately. As soon as she had an allowance, she spent it on lures and gear, obsessively organizing and reorganizing her tackle box during family movie nights. Getting more adventurous in her teens, April started to follow the migration of salmon and steelhead in the rivers along the British Columbia coast. That's where she met her first fishing pal, a kindly older chap who was a gear fisher, meaning he used tackle and bait with a rod with a reel. He gifted April a fly rod that he never used, and fly fishing's intoxicating, exacerbating combination of challenge and beauty completely changed the course of her life. April guided in her 20s before starting her own guide service, Fly Gal Ventures, in 2007. Her goal of creating a place where female anglers were educated and encouraged in a non-intimidating environment was almost derailed a year later when April was nearly killed by a drunk driver. The long recovery and rehabilitation, both physical and mental, only sharpened her focus on the things that really mattered. She sold off nearly everything she owned while she couldn't work and was back at Fly Gal as soon as she could walk again. Since then, April has become a fixture on the fly fishing internet and TV, and the Anchored podcast has grown into an online community and education platform for fly fishing, hunting, foraging, and homesteading. The experiences and insights April's gained through all this pour out of her like a joyous river breaching a river dam. It's not often I sit back in a conversation and think, good God, this person can talk. But just as impressive to me is how quickly April's able to connect with you. She has a curiosity and sincerity that disarms, and she tackles unexpected and even uncomfortable topics with a candor and a sense of humor that's irresistible. Not unlike my dear old grandpa. But even grandpa couldn't weave a story about helicopter-interrupted skinny dipping into a detailed description of how king salmon die alongside an incisive takedown of fly fishing bros and then throw in some wisdom about the intersection of menstruation and adventure to boot. Buckle up, people. This conversation is wild. First things first, burnt toast. What's your last humbling and or hilarious moment outside?
The most humbling is actually it's kind of boring, but we recently filmed this piece in Canada over the fall during Steelhead season. And I worked so hard.
Okay.
I mean, you know what it's like when the cameras are on for 6 days, just desperate, like, please show that I know what I'm doing and let me land a fish.
Let me look cool. Let me look cool. Let me look
Please,
cool. Let me look cool.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
We got fish, but they were all pretty little. But the point was I wanted to produce this film to showcase my best friend, Adrienne Comeau, who's this badass fly fisherman, and we've been best friends for like 23 years. She only had a half a day. She goes out, she makes maybe 25 casts and lands a 40-incher. It was just the most humbling.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's what we all said, including Adrienne. Every one of us was in shock. But like, how does that look? You spend 6 days with a camera crew trying to look cool, and then she makes 20 casts, and she's like, 40-incher, yee-hoo!
Yes. Well, honestly, to tell you the truth, it's kind of nice. Is that the right word? To hear that even you get skunked on the river.
Yeah, all the time.
After researching you, I kind of thought it was like, she just probably whistles and all these fish show up.
Oh, I wish. Yeah, just add water and everything will appear. No.
All right, let's get into this. There's a saying that I love, that the two biggest liars in the world are meteorologists and fishers.
Okay.
I love that anglers can spin a yarn, and often that yarn is not necessarily firmly tied to reality. So with that in mind, what is your best fishing tall tale?
Oh.
Yes.
See, now, here's where we're going to agree to disagree, I think.
Okay.
Fishermen are liars. Fisherwomen...
I love it. Bring it. Yes, that's what we're here for.
I don't think we are. I don't think I'd have a tall tale about anything. I've noticed specifically that with men, I love men a lot. We won't even talk about men calculating inches because we all know where that leads. But
Hey-o.
I'm just saying, there is a thing where I was beside you. I know for sure that fish was not that big. Or I know, let's talk poundage. Oh, let's not talk poundage. See what happens? My brain just cannot help itself. When they'll be like, oh, it's a 7-pound fish. Or, I'll say it's a 7-pound fish. And they're like, oh, I caught a 15-pounder. And you're going, but did you really? Because I was there. But I've just learned over the years with clients, if they say it's 20 pounds, sure, it's 20 pounds. But it's not. That was a 15-pound fish every day of the week, which is an amazing fish. But you and I are going to have to disagree on the whole inch poundage thing. But that's a tale as old as time.
I like your style.
But on the Lower Dean River. Okay. So I used to manage this lodge. I guided for a decade for Steelhead. We used to close the Dean, and my brother-in-law and we were the guides there. We'd stay on. And one year, there was this massive fire. And they shut the entire area down. And the firefighters said, look, we know you guys will be fine because obviously you know how to catch and kill your own food. And they said, we don't know when we can get you guys out, but if you want to stay, you can stay. So we stayed on, and it was the most incredible summer of my life. And I'll stand by that. All we had to do was just not get trapped by fires and catch fish. And anyway, so my brother-in-law, Stevie, hooks into probably a 10-pound steelhead. And I'm downstream of him. And I just remember it was like slow motion. She's running. And I'm telling you this because I just want to give you some perspective on their power. This is a 10-pounder. It's not that big. She's running downstream. She launches and full-on body slams me to the point where I had a complete a C shape on my waders of head, body, tail, and knocks me over, a 10-pound steelhead. So imagine one 3.5 times that size. They're amazing.
Stories like this, you don't need tall tales. These are incredible.
They are ridiculous. And that same trip, and then I'll let you talk. I promise I'll give the mic back. But
this is the best. Yeah, I don't really have that many. Let me tell you about this hippopotamus I once got on the Dean. It was incredible.
But that same trip, there's this waterfall called Grantham Falls, and it pours down and into the ocean. And so my sister and I, we hike up to Grantham Falls. And of course, there's nobody there. So why wouldn't we do what every young group of girls would do? We get butt naked and we get into the base of Grantham Falls. And it's like in the movies where it's like, oh, feel the wind in my face. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, that's because, you can hear the waterfall boop, 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 boop.
Yeah,
but I'm going, that's a lot of extra wind and a lot of extra, what the hell? I turn around and there's a helicopter hovering there. It was the firefighters with the helicopters with the water, and they're sitting there. We got these two naked nymphs. We're trying to just cover absolutely everything. And they're just sitting there. Can you imagine collecting water and you...
This is like you're the sirens in like a Greek tragedy comedy, and like here are these firefighters.
It looked like there were 4 of them. So if you're listening and you were one of those firefighters, first, don't tell anyone what you saw, but then please let me know that you were one of those guys, because we talk about it all the time. And they just sat there, hovering, staring, watching us fall over ourselves.
Oh my God.
It was a good summer. It was a good summer.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a great summer for the firefighters.
Exactly.
Water has been a constant in your life since you were a kid.
Okay.
Are there any experiences that you've had being near or in the water that helped you understand something about yourself as a kid that still holds true today?
That's a really good question, actually. Thank you for that. Thank you. It was never fish that got me into fishing. It was always the water that got me into fishing. You know, being a little kid, standing on bridges, looking down, trying to see what you could find. I just always felt, like so many of us do, just a connection to moving water. I don't have the same thing with salt water as I do with moving water. I don't know if it's that it's just constantly regenerative, or if it's that it's reliable, or that it's got its seasons.
Do you remember the moment when you knew that fishing was going to be your thing for life?
100%. I was a Girl Guide. I did 3 years of brownies, 3 years of, because there were no Sparks at the time, 3 years brownies, 3 years Girl Guides, 3 years Pathfinders. Then I was a junior leader, and now I'm 43 years old, and I'm still a leader, and my daughter's a Girl Guide. We went on a salmon hatchery trip, and I was able to start piecing together how salmon migration worked, because it was one of our badges. And then when Mom and Dad brought us to the river, there was this big rotted, we say Chinook, Americans say king salmon. I'm sorry, not rotted, big dead king salmon. And it was completely intact, which is strange. They don't usually die like that. They usually, decay. But it must have bumped its head, which is a thing. Chinook salmon or big salmon, if they can't make a run, or if they can't make it over a barrier or a waterfall, they can accidentally bash their heads and die naturally that way, which is disappointing. But it was this beautiful chrome fish, and Mom and Dad explained the migration, which made sense because of our outing with Girl Guides. And then the math started. So I'm on the river. The river's 15 feet wide. Salmon's 20 pounds. That fish has to get through here, but I can cast a rod, 20 feet. So why can't I intercept that fish? So all the math started mathing. And that was when the challenge kicked in. Because, you're like, well, the river's not that big. If it's an ocean and you have to catch that fish, that's really intimidating. But it's only from here to there. So if my line continuously goes across the path of a fish, there is a chance that big salmon could see it. So you're saying there's a chance. So that was kind of when it all started.
Well, what kind of a kid were you? Because I think a lot of us find the community we were always looking for when we find the outdoor community.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, I know that is very true for me.
Yep.
Typically, it doesn't matter really what sport or passion that you're into, right? We're all a colorful cast of characters. We're a bunch of weirdos that do weird pursuits. Would you describe yourself as kind of like a misfit or slightly left of center type kid?
So, like all of us, there's phases, right? So you're a kid, then you're a teenager, preteen, teen. I was very much an introvert as a kid. My sister was an extrovert. I was very quiet and cerebral. As an adult, I'm also still very much an introvert. I've gone back. I'd say 95% of my day is quite quiet and also quite cerebral. But yeah, as a kid, I was very not withdrawn, but I was always, my brain was always puzzled, I guess. I was always just enticed by all puzzles, whether it was an instrument or an actual jigsaw puzzle or fishing, which is the ultimate puzzle. I was just always trying to figure out how to make it work.
Fishing very often, if not 90% of the time, is solitary.
Yeah.
Was that the thing that appealed to you? Because it's pretty well documented that you were obsessed with fishing from an early age. When you were a little kid, you meticulously tended to your tackle box and your lures and baits. In your teens, you were constantly chasing down salmon and steelhead in the rivers along the coastline of British Columbia. Soon thereafter, a gear fishing pal of yours gifted you an old unused fly rod, and that totally grabs a hold of you and completely directs the rest of your life. But what about like your friend group growing up?
Right.
Were you fishing with a bunch of pals?
No.
Or were you the silent loner casting in the shadows?
I love it. Both, actually. So yes is the answer to all of that, I guess. So I was an introvert as a kid. I loved fishing.
Okay.
When my girlfriends would go, you're 13 years old, 8th grade, they'd go to the mall, but beside the mall was a tackle shop. And so because I loved my brown Plano tackle box, And that's what I would do at night. As a family, we'd watch movies, and I would sit there, and I would always constantly, I would gut the box, reload the box, gut the box, reload the box. But to really be able to feel good about it, you need to have 2 or 3 new lures. So I would go and get some more gear from the tackle shop next to the mall. And then on Friday night, gut the box, reload the box. And I had warned my parents, when I can drive, I will be doing, because my parents don't fish. We did a lot of stuff outside, and mom and dad were great in that they knew we loved fishing. And so we would go and troll worms or whatnot. They were very supportive. But when I got my driver's license, that was it for me. And so I was because I was so social in school, going fishing was my break, right? So at school, I was one of those kids, you know, I took pride in getting along with everybody, and I liked people. But again, as many introverts will know, there comes a time in your day when you can't say one other, like you have to walk away. You can't.
Yeah, that social battery is completely tapped, and you have to seek solitude to recharge.
100%. You can't smile anymore. You don't want to see a single person.
Yeah.
You just almost need to run. So I would run to the river. And because I was a good student, the deal was if I had straight A's or if I was on the A honor roll, I didn't have to go to school all the time. So I didn't go.
What do you mean you didn't have to go to school? This is something your parents told you? They were like, if you can get straight A's, you can play hooky and go fishing?
Yeah, well, yeah, because...
This is some serious Huckleberry Finn stuff right now.
It wasn't supposed to start as fishing. It was supposed to be you can work the extra job. If you are on the straight honor roll, we don't care what your attendance is, because they weren't docking points for attendance. And I had the lead in the school musical for the 3 years that I was there, the 10, 11, grades 10, 11, 12. So they couldn't expel me. Everyone was stuck because they needed me in the musical. It's called strategy, my friend.
Played.
Yeah.
Well played.
Yeah, so mom and dad really didn't give a it provided I was bringing in decent grades and I wasn't hurting people. They didn't care what I was doing. So it started as, well, I'll work an extra job then, because I couldn't understand why I was spending all the extra time in school when I could be making money or doing something that made sense. So then eventually, though, I just started going fishing, and they didn't care because we'd already had this kind of routine. So I was by myself out there fishing and kept running into this man who was in his 60s at the time. And I was like, I see you out here all the time and you're by yourself. And, and he was offering to fish with me, which of course was a massive red flag. Yeah. And the answer was a solid no. Mm-hmm. And then until it wasn't. And one day I kind of said, sure. And so fished with Dave Puffer, and my folks were not completely irresponsible. So one day they followed me out to the river, and they parked the car across and just watched to see if there was any weird behavior, and there wasn't.
Sure, totally.
Dave was great, and that was my first fishing buddy.
This fishing buddy of yours, he had the fly fish rod like completely unused, dusty in the corner of his like tackle room, and it was like, here, you can just have this. Yep. And then he also gifts you actual VHS tapes, instructional tapes, which you watch obsessively. Yep. You are 100% self-taught on fly fishing. Other than these tapes, there was no like fly fishing guru that you followed on river?
Definitely not on river. And remember, this is all way before internet, so it's not like you're watching YouTube videos. The VHS tapes were incredibly helpful. When you're trying to watch a VHS tape to fly tie, if you miss a step, we didn't have a remote for our VCR, so I'd have to get up and then walk over to the VCR, pause, or like unpause, run back, and try to capture. So the VHS tapes were great for fly casting, not so much for fly tying. But I'd sit on the edge of the bed and I'd do this thing that I now know is called pantomime casting. So I would watch what they were doing and I would try to follow along with my hands, and that creates muscle memory. A lot of people, the first thing they do is they get their pre-strung rod and they go fishing, or worse, they go to the water to learn how to cast, and that's a horrible idea.
You're talking about this is what I did. Yep.
Way too many distractions. It's incredible out there. It's too distracting.
Trying to learn nymphing, which is the most frustrating. It's just a big old booger on the end, like this winding thing that flips and flaps around. It's just, oh my God.
No. Anything with a hook, do not put a hook on the end of your line when you're learning. Put a piece of yarn on.
Well, where were you a handful of years ago?
Yeah, go to a backyard, sit on the edge of your bed. Yeah, so Dave really helped me get into it. But but the problem was at some point, I mean, he was older. So when salmon were done their run, Dave went went home. And I was just getting started. So salmon really finish around the end of November in the Northern Hemisphere, or, specifically in BC. I guess everywhere up there. And then steelhead start to enter in December. So a lot of the quote unquote meat anglers go home, and then the really truly hardcore anglers come out for steelhead from December till April for what's called a winter steelhead. And so winter steelheading is just a whole different world. So Dave went in, and I had myself, I had taken a casting workshop, but no, there were definitely no on-river gurus. And at the time, it was really hard to get anybody in person because there were no other, I hadn't met Adrian. I met Adrian, I think, when I was 22. So she was a savior because we were able to team up, and obviously that's to this day. But nobody would fish with me because nobody wanted to be the person who appeared to be hitting on the new girl or on the girl who was on the river all the time. So even though...
Was that a difficult thing to try to navigate through?
I didn't know. A lot of the stories came later where they'd be like, yeah, we knew, or I knew and wanted to help you, but... Or I knew and
I didn't want the guys at the fly shop or the bar later to be like, the only reason that you're talking to that gal is because you're trying to go out on a date.
And I found, or, that you're married, or that it was weird because I'm a young woman and you're in your 60s. And the most common thing that I've heard, and now that I know the men in the fishing industry, it totally checks out. Everybody thought that everybody else was helping me, so nobody wanted to help me.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it happens. It happens to hot girls to be like, oh, I thought everyone thinks that everyone's hitting on the hot girl, so no one hits on the hot girl. It happens all the time.
So then what was the moment on the river where you're like, oh, damn, I got this thing?
It didn't just happen overnight. It's frustrating. I want people to know that it is frustrating the first second. It's frustrating for a long time. But when you catch your first fish solo, especially catching my first steelhead solo, that was, I've got this. And I really saw a parallel. I really found myself in those steelhead. I was young and I was a little troubled, regular troubled teen story. I was finding who I was. And those steelhead, as they were finding their way home upstream, I was quite romantic. And I always found myself in my brain. I was like, we're the same. You're finding yourself upstream. I'm finding myself upstream. Let's do this together. We'll find ourselves together. And I am who I am today because of it.
On this show, we almost exclusively talk about the positive impacts of the outdoors and the lives of our guests. But that is not solely the effect of our experiences outside of a lot of the times our fun or our connection or both can be disrupted by forces outside of us. And you said that you thought the fishermen in the community were all, quote, before you started your podcast. Can you explain to me what you meant by that and what led you to feel that way?
Did I say that? Did I say that somewhere?
Yeah.
All fishermen are Oh, I know what I think. I thought all fly fishermen were I had thought that.
Yes.
When I was a gear fisher, because I was by myself, I would tuck my hair up in a hat and try to pretend to be a boy. And I remember I was gear fishing and these fly fishermen came up. And fly fishermen have got a bit of a reputation for being and I had heard them behind me and they're like, oh, that guy's ruined the pool already. He's fishing his dirty bait fishermen. And I just remember thinking, I will never be a fly fisherman. They're all and so I did think all fly fishermen were snobby. And I was wrong. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. No, they are not. I mean, it's just like every group of people. You have good ones and bad ones and arrogant ones. And ironically, the most arrogant ones are the worst ones. They're like the worst fishermen because they're typically insecure. That's why.
Yeah.
So you have to just break through that and be kind to them because they need a bit of coddling. They come right eventually.
Well, you said that the podcast helped evolve your thinking on the gender dynamics in fly fishing or in just the fishing world in general. Was there a series of interactions or a series of guests or discussions that you had that shifted the way that you thought about fly fishermen?
Yeah, I always tell people my favorite guests are men over the age of 80 and women. It's just harder to find fly fishing women over 80. But all my guests over 80 are my most insightful, most humbling guests. They were the best thing that ever happened to me because
why?
You just learn so much. Their perspective is so advanced beyond anybody in my own age group.
Do you think it's something about the age that allows them, it's the wisdom of like, well, I need to, whatever, gender dynamics, like it doesn't really matter. I'm a fly fisher and you're a fly fisher and we're just going to talk and it kind of drops away when you hit the octogenarian stage of life? Is it that?
I think men have an interesting life cycle in my
tell me
findings.
this.
And again, I only know so much. I'm still piecing this together, so I'm learning it as I live it. But all children are so innocent and beautiful, right? And they all start that way. Then there's teens, and life happens, and life's hard for a lot of these for a lot of people. But it's almost like there is an age, and I can't put a number on it, but there's an age where men soften again, which is funny because they actually you don't notice it because they get so grouchy. A lot of them get grumpy. Not only testosterone, but identity, or like one of my guests we spoke about, there's sexuality, they identify as being sexual beings. At some point that changes. Now they're left wondering who the hell they are. So they can come across, or a lot of them really withdraw, and then they have fewer friends, and then they get into their own heads. And so they can appear to be grouchy, but if you actually can see past the grouchiness, which you can do if you're just patient, there is a softness to them. Like you'll notice a lot of older men will stop hunting because they don't have the heart to do it anymore. They see young women differently. They take away the testosterone and even the sexuality of it all. And I'm not saying that they're not sexual. I mean, I hope that they are, but they, for their own identity, but they soften. There's something softer there in men as they get older, in my experience.
What about the peers then? What about the folks in
my age group?
Their 40s. Yeah.
It's a mixed bag. There's still a few that are but we all have our tendencies to be, I'm a sometimes. I think I've learned with the podcast and just with life that you just can't assume anything about anybody. I mean, usually they're just having a bad day, or they're projecting some of their own issues. I don't know. It's really hard for me to find someone I genuinely don't like nowadays. That's not just like me high on coffee here.
It seems to me maybe then what the podcast has done for you is allowed you to be more curious and drop more like initial judgment.
Oh,
I mean,
100,
you're 12 years
100%.
into chatting with people about things. And so maybe, it's just made you a more curious person rather than like I've had one interaction with this person at the gas station or at the fly shop and I know exactly who they are.
So that's the word. Being curious about people is the most exciting part of my day. I love learning about people. And I think that's the key. So when you meet somebody, you can either project your own bad day or tell them all about you, or you can actually look at them with curiosity and ask them about themselves. And it's amazing how disarming that is when you not just say, how are you doing today? And you don't mean it, but when you actually ask them, so where are you from? Like, what makes you tick? What's your, don't say what makes you tick. That's a horrible question. But what do you do? I don't know. But if you actually look at people like they're people, it's amazing. Suddenly you start to see them as people. And they're really usually not that bad.
You've had this storied career. You've fished all over the world in all sorts of extreme and remote locations. And what's striking to me is that you seem comfortable anywhere, in any type of water, fishing any type of fish. For instance, in the film Shadow People at the Falls, you're fishing for actual river monsters in the jungles of Guyana. It's pretty spooky stuff, but you seem completely at ease.
Yes.
How do you do that?
By letting my instincts take over entirely. Do you hunt? Are you a hunter?
What do you mean by that?
Are you a hunter?
I hunt for powder snow.
Oh, okay.
I hunt for a good time, but I have never hunted for an animal.
So one of the most shocking things that hit me when I was guiding is I would have these people next to me, and across from the river, a grizzly bear is walking. Now, animals are very intentional. Every step matters, every crack matters, everything matters. The amount of clients who would be beside me who had no idea what was across the river from them, the amount of wildlife that would cross their paths and they had no idea was always actually a little frustrating, honestly, but a real eye-opener for me to just how unaware human beings are. I pride myself in that. I see myself very much as an animal. That's why I don't stray away from talking about sex. I love sex. It's animalistic. We are animals. I trust myself as a woman because I trust a doe and a nanny goat. I trust female animals for us to trust our instincts, etc. I like to look at my wilderness and my wild Guyana experiences, for example, as an animal. So once you go into an environment as an animal, it's not that intimidating because with practice, I've really honed in, partly because of hunting and fishing, I trust my instincts. I know how to turn my ears on and my nose on and my eyes on. I know if the wind is on my left or right cheek or on the back of my head or front of my head at any given time without even batting an eye. It's just part of my day-to-day feelings to be able to know if I'm working with wind or against wind or water or whatever. You hear the trickles and the bugs. You get so in touch with your own senses that you can be put into almost any environment and know that you're going to adapt as an animal, as a prey animal or as a predator.
Predator?
Yeah, while you're out there.
That's fascinating to me. And I can understand how you would do that outside and why you would want to do that outside. But is there any of that shows up in conversation on the podcast or in your business life or in your marriage or mothering?
Definitely mothering. Mothering is the most animalistic thing I've ever done, for sure.
Explain that.
Oh, just the complete senses. I trust every single thing that my body does. Even birthing. I mean, your body knows exactly what it needs to do in every form. Being a mother is the most natural animal thing that we can do, I think. How deep do you want me to go on that?
As deep as you want. We don't shy away from the depth.
I mean, everything. Do you have kids? Yeah, you have kids, right?
Yeah, I have a 1-year-old daughter.
So you know the miracle. You watched your wife give birth. You know
Yes.
that the breastfeeding helped her heal. You know that she would leak. You know about colostrum and you know all of that stuff.
Yes.
And all of what happens there. But also, God forbid someone tried to hurt your child. What would your wife do?
Oh, I mean,
Scorched earth. Like, it's just a whole...
yes. Yeah.
It's a whole different world. And that
Yes.
is the same with a grizzly bear. It is the same with most animals.
Well, that to me seems like a pretty intense feeling. I think parenting, being a mother, being a father is an intense feeling. But one of the things that I love about fly fishing myself is that it's pretty chill. I mean, when I feel the tug on the end of my line, I lose my and everything prior to that, though, is pretty calm. Fly fishing to me requires me to slow my down and get in tune with my surroundings and move easy. And that really calls to me because in other areas of my life, I am not as quiet and rhythmic. So how much of that is what drew you to the sport and how much of that still draws you to the sport?
The calm. And I'm giggling a little to myself because you're like, oh, it's so chill. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you're in northern British Columbia or Alaska. Yes, when you get your feet in the river, it is very chill. But as you are getting from your car to the river, is it that chill?
Yeah.
Because you just crossed 3 grizzlies, a potential spot where you could have broken your foot. If you've rafted, maybe you've just hit a class 3 and, whatever it is, right?
I'm referring to the fly fishing that I do, which is trout fishing on skinny, shallow-ish rivers in Colorado.
Well, and I love that. And I love that because that is exactly what I was going to say. Fly fishing is what you want to make it. So you can make it relaxing and you can make it adrenaline packed. You can make it so that you're targeting great white sharks if you want to in Australia. You can make it whatever you want it to be. If you want it to be a solitude or a solitary thing where you're out there finding your rhythm and relaxing, then yes, go to Idaho and make it that, or like you said, or Colorado.
Yeah.
And if you want to make it a crazy adventure where you have no idea what you're going to see on the way up, then get on horseback and go to a glacial lake, right? Like you can make it whatever you want it to be. I think that's the beauty of fly fishing.
Well, what calls to you? Like, how do you turn the dial on cranking it to 10 on Serenity or cranking it to 10 on Adrenaline? I'm going to headbutt a grizzly and catch a river monster with my bare hands.
There's an enormous asterisk there because it's very much, it depends. For me, it just depends on my mental state, my workload. I mean, as a woman, I'm going to say 4 words and then I'll leave it so I don't turn off your male base.
Oh, please, please do whatever you want to do. Don't censor yourself.
My 4 words are luteal, follicular, menstruation, ovulation. There are 4 weeks in a month, 12 times a year. That will impact my decision on what I feel like doing. So I do everything around those 4 words. I eat around those 4 words. I make business meetings around those 4 words, my relationships, and my trips around those 4 words. So if I'm in a stage where my brain or my whatever I'm working with at the time needs to relax, then that's the trip I will take for that particular time of my life. Sometimes if I'm feeling really fiery and fired up, then I will book something that's going to get me in trouble. So it just all depends.
That is fascinating to me. No one on this show has told me that they are making decisions about their outdoor time based upon where they are in their menstrual cycle.
Yeah, because there is a weird time for me anyway. It's my luteal phase where everything is not right. I'm ugly.
Yeah.
I'm a complete failure.
Yep.
I don't trust
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
I'm not going to put myself in the middle of Guyana if I'm feeling like I'm about to jump off a cliff. So, I mean,
Sure.
it's not a perfect world, so I can't always time it. But at least I give myself the grace to understand, okay, I'm feeling really off in my environment right now, but this is why. And you know why? Because I'm an animal, and I understand my animal stages. So all of that stuff ties in together. I know this is the you don't talk about with men when you're out in the bush. I do not talk about the stuff with men.
This
They would
is
stop listening.
Amazing. No. Everybody, chill out, dudes. If you're getting weird about this, like, grow up, read a book,
Right.
talk to your mother and the other women in your life. This is amazing. No, this is
men
April,
have-
this is singular. I have not had this discussion with anyone on this show before.
cool.
This is blowing my mind.
Well, a lot of the same things that we go through, you guys go through, but you do it in a 24-hour period. So it might take me 30 days, but it takes you 24 hours. And in 24, I mean, think about your mood when you wake up versus how you feel throughout the day. So you also have got peaks and different times in your hormones.
Yeah.
I mean, the most obvious example is I don't want to go camping in Alaska if I'm menstruating. That just does not sound like a good idea to me. I don't want to be in a tent when that's happening. I mean, that's a really obvious example. Oh, and the moon. So much of our 30 days depend on the moon, and that's not some crazy, voodoo stuff. That's just, again,
Right,
part of
yeah.
being an animal.
The sex ed of fly fishing with April Vokey. This is great.
I don't talk about this
is
on my
blowing
show at
mind.
all. I've never talked about this on the show because my listener base is 85%
We got
men,
the scoop.
and men just completely glaze and turn away. They can't help themselves. Most of them, they're like, "Yep, okay, I'm exiting the conversation."
Yeah. You know what, April? I wouldn't shy away from it on your show. Like, I mean, if you're coming to learn about fly fishing, guess what? You're coming to learn about menstruation, fellas. You have had experiences in the outdoors that are pretty scary and sketchy. Are you comfortable with talking about those
I mean, I just talked
extremes?
about having my period. I'm comfortable with talking about anything. What's
Okay,
next?
deal. No qualifiers needed. So, can you tell me about the time when your raft flipped on the Upper Dean River? What happened?
Well, that was stupid. Look, I'd always known that I wanted to run this run. It's called Moose Rapids. I knew that there was a chance I wasn't going to make it. So I kicked the dog off. I tightened my wading belt up. I made sure to mentally know where my pulley was on my life vest, which is already a red flag because if you're going to be rafting, you should
Right.
have one that's like a proper...
A PFD rather than an inflatable.
Yeah, because something like 70% of people forget to, or they don't pull the
Cord?
The cord. Yeah.
That's spooky.
So it's just dumb, right? So I got rid of the dog, did all that. I was in a weird spot. I wasn't able to hit the seam that I wanted, and I got sucked into it. I made the first rapid, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm so good. And then the second one, it was like in the movies where you catch air and then there's that moment of, oh, and everything just, I literally caught air. And as I came down, my bow stuck first in the rapid and I flipped. So I pulled the cord and admittedly, I went this way when I thought I was totally upside down. I ended up not having a clue where I was. But so I popped up and then that was when it all kind of got worse because you're in the river and you can see that there are more rapids below you. Your boat, which is up because it's an inflatable, is there, but the shore is there. Do you grab your boat and hang on and try to get through all the rapids and risk getting sucked back down or having your boot get stuck in a rock? I don't know. Or do you leave the literal flotation, like floating life device next to you and try to swim into shore? I didn't have time to think because now I can feel the waders are filling up, which is a horrible idea to wear waders in a
That is
raft.
terrifying.
Yeah. So you're wearing basically a bag. So this bag and my
Yeah.
boots are getting heavier. Anyway, I decided to do it. So I swam to shore. And then I did what every non-self-respecting person with a death wish would do. And I stood up. What an idiot. So I get swept back down again. And the dog's running along downstream following me. There is an overhanging branch. And I was able to grab the branch. And it swung me in like a swung fly. And I was able to I literally had no nails because I clawed my way until I was flat on dry land.
Are there lessons learned from that as compared to maybe like having a little more control over either the adrenaline or the serenity of fly fishing that you take into your other experiences outside?
Yeah, I think I'm not as afraid now to put in more steps to avoid more danger. Whereas before I would just say, well, let's just rock climb the gorge to get out. I won't do that now. I take a step back as I'm getting older. My body's, well, maybe I probably should take a step back as I'm getting older. I'll get there. I'll slow down eventually.
I don't believe you at all. years prior to you flipping on the Dean, a drunk driver hit you in a head-on collision, nearly killing you in 2008.
Oh, you're good. Yep.
I think, if I have right. You were headed to a lake to fish, towing a trailer with a boat when you were hit. Yeah. I've seen the photos. They are awful.
It was bad.
They're absolutely horrifying. You just started your business, Fly Gal Ventures. Things were like really growing great, and then that happens.
Yeah, I quit my cocktailing job. I had gone full on. So at that time, I was still waitressing. So I just quit, stepped down, and went full time into fishing. We were on our way to film, so we just got signed to do a television series. I was with a friend, and her and I were heading up to go and film the first episode of Fly Nation at the time. Then that accident happened, and I had no income. So that was what I actually dove into, not just tying flies, but also writing articles and trying to have more of a presence doing other things, speaking for clubs. I ended up actually because I was in a wheelchair. In the car accident, she gave me to be honest, it was caused by a human. She was 3 times over the legal limit driving a 3/4 ton Chevy. And the only thing that saved me was my Tacoma was on 33-inch tires, and so I was higher than she was. And so she gave me a lease. It's called a Lease Frank fracture. So my entire right foot was completely crushed. All the joints are crushed. The 3 inner metatarsals are all plates and pins in my foot. So it's a massive amount of healing. And I was just so depressed. And, the physical therapist would come to my house and I was so depressed. Everyone's still up at the lake and I'm by myself. I had to do like the blood clot medication and needle in my stomach. The whole thing was just a show. Anyway, and I said, and I'd never been depressed before. I'm a pretty happy, optimistic person. And I said, my body's going to be fine. My brain is not well. Can I go fishing? I said, you've got me doing these exercises in the wheelchair. It's lake season. What if I'm in my raft or in my like a little aluminum pram and I'm rowing? Can I do that? And he said, sure. So someone came and picked me up and we drove all the way back up to the lake. And I spent the next month rehabbing, fishing, and was beyond happy. I don't know if you've had a near-death experience, but I was so high, not on drugs, but on life because I was not supposed to be alive. So everything was like, oh, life is so good.
The colors are more vibrant. The tastes are more tasty.
The
smells are more
it happened.
Beautiful. Yes, everything.
What happened to you?
Everything is shiny. Well, I have been in recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction since I was 29, and
congratulations.
Thank you. Very close to dying, and very quickly in rehab, and then in the sober house that I lived, I was like, "What is this world?" I mean, feeling all of the things on 11. It was just like this overwhelming gratitude of being alive because I should be dead. I should not be here talking to you. And so that gratitude, those waves of gratitude still come to me a lot, especially when looking back or just, it's like when I'm holding my daughter, I'm like, this is a thing that I've always wanted and I shouldn't have had because I should be dead. And so it has a way of informing your day-to-day, let's say. But back to you, what was it like making your first cast?
I had my foot in a cast, casting with a cast. And it was just, like you said, everything was just so incredible. I don't remember, admittedly, the first cast. I do remember, however, the first moment of being on that lake and in camp and being like, I am here. And everything with, like you said, the colors, the noises, the sounds, the camaraderie. You got to be so thankful for people because, the guys would have to hold me up when I would go pee. It was my first time being dependent on people.
Yes.
And being so thankful for everything. Thankful for everybody, everyone. And like you said, it's still, I think that's why I am the way I am today, honestly, with people and life and optimism is because of that. But there's a dark side to it that so many people don't talk about. I'm sure you would have experienced it when you think, okay, I'm going to live every single day like it's my last. But there's a lot of pressure there because then if you have a bad day or you haven't lived your day, you watch Netflix all day, you're like, no, I promised I would make every day amazing. But so it was, the car accident was a massive one, but it was a game changer because I did a massive weed of people out of my life. Anyone who I felt, specifically my boyfriend, I realized you're miserable and I don't want to wake up unhappy. I'm happy. And so I did. And also looking around, I was overwhelmed with all this clutter and stuff. I just didn't want stuff in my life anymore. I only wanted things that really I saw value in. So I just got rid of everything and started over. I'd read The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss and was like, exactly. If everything were to burn down tomorrow, I'll be fine. So I just started over and I have no regrets on that.
I mean, in that regard, then, is fly fishing more than a sport to
Oh,
you?
yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's your business. It's given you so many different forms of your career path. It's how you spend most of your time in the outdoors. But what else is it?
Oh, it's my identity. It changed my entire life. I think it saved my life. I grew up in a pretty rough area. I had some really horrible people around me. And so I would leave it all to go fishing. Or, everyone would be staying up late, getting into trouble, and I'd excuse myself to go get the night bite or get some sleep because I had to be up at 4 a.m. to be on the river for first light. So it absolutely saved my life. I cannot say enough about it. It is my whole life. Fly fishing has changed my entire, I don't know if it's changed my life, but it is my life.
Do you feel like as much as fly fishing is a sport to you, is the sport to you, is it also the means by which you navigate your fears, you navigate your joys, your difficulties, your triumphs in life?
Yeah, it's not a sport to me. I know that we're supposed, I think I've called it a sport before. It's easy just to say it's a sport.
Sure.
But in speaking about it here in long form conversation, it is not a sport to me. And I understand anyone who's like, why would you fly fish? What's the point? Why catch and release? We should be gear fishing. So it's not just fly fishing. Fishing, connecting with the water and what's in it for me is, everything. Emotionally, psychologically.
When you think about everything fly fishing has taught you and meant to you, is there one lesson, is there one meaning that you're still learning or trying to understand?
Well, you mentioned it earlier, or you alluded to it earlier about slowing down. And it's funny because that's the number one bit of advice I give to everybody when they are getting into fishing. Almost always the answer is just slow down. I can't cast properly. Well, slow down. I don't see any fish there. Well, slow down. I didn't know where to go. Well, slow down. It's almost always just slow down. And in life, I'm finding it's a lot of the same. Trust my instincts. Slow down.
It is now time for the final ramble. One piece of gear you cannot live without.
Well, ironically, it's the thing that almost killed me, but my Watermaster.
The boat?
Yeah. Yes.
Really? Not the fly rod? Okay. That's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I can live without a fly rod. I guess technically, if we were going to get technical, I would need a fly line. You can cast a fly line without a fly rod, but the boat is, again, it's
nice stuff.
It's the thing that can get you everywhere, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing worse.
The vehicle for the joy.
Yes, there's nothing worse than standing and feeling stuck in life on the river anywhere. And at least with that Watermaster, it is my, like you said, vehicle to freedom. I can take it anywhere. But what's so cool about it is that you can get in the middle of the river and it's like a dinghy with a hollowed out center. You can stand on a rock and be in the middle of the river where you could never get there otherwise. Because if you fall, you just fall back into your boat.
Oh, it's like one of those like wearable little fly fishing boats. Like it's like the sportiest inner tube that's ever been.
Yes, it's like a little donut.
Okay.
It suctions down. You can take it on like I took it out yesterday or 2 days ago. I was on a lake out here and I'm surfing it, right? And also after my car accident, because I had my cast on, after the cast was off and I was in the moon boot, I would just keep my one bad leg up on the Watermaster. And then every time I wanted to go down, when I want to go downstream, I would just lift my other foot off the ground and I would float down 5 feet and then I'd put my foot back down.
Oh, like a little aqua wheelchair.
Yes, it was. That's what I mean. The Watermaster every day of the week is my jam.
Okay, I dig it. Best outdoor snack.
Beef, any jerky. Any sort of jerky.
What's your favorite?
Rudolph's in
jerky?
Smithers. It's super niche.
A reindeer?
What?
Oh, poor Santa.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I like reindeer jerky. No. The German guy is Rudolph.
Santa, if you're listening, protect Rudolph. Blitzen.
He's a German man, actually, in northern British Columbia named Rudolph, but that is very funny.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
What is your hottest outdoor hot take?
It brings me right back to slowing down. I'm sorry. It'll always be slowing down. And I know we've discussed that ad nauseum or, to death, but slowing down. And that's the other thing. Guyana, if I hadn't been slow, I would have stepped on a coral snake, a scorpion, blah, 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 blah. So just my hot take is slow down. Oh, and here's my other one. If I had to give you fresh meat. Fish behind people. Lets you watch them. Watch what they're doing. Watch, did they get a bite? Did they not get a bite? What are they doing? Are they better than you? What can you do different to get better or different results? And also I see so many people, they cast first, ask questions later. I row around the edge. I look slowly. Are there bugs? What is happening there? What was that? Take a minute. Get to the river. Don't just cast. Don't go in too far. What's under your feet? What's happening around you?
Go slow, be curious.
Yes.
You fishers.
That's it.
Do you hear it? Okay, I'm digging this. This is great. I'm going to go to the river and go very slow and not do what I usually do, which is tie intricate, incredibly frustrating knots with my cast and then just curse like a sailor for most of the
Good
day.
idea.
That's usually what I do, but now I'm just going to, check in with my luteal phase and go slow.
Good idea. Excellent. I like it.